Imagine this. You're 85 years old, sitting in a quiet room, flipping through the pages of your life. You smile at some memories, laugh at a few, but then you pause. A lump forms in your throat because there's regret, and not just one, but 5 of them. The same 5 regrets that so many people whisper in their final moments. Brony Ware, a palliative nurse, nurses who take care of the people who are towards the end of their life, have shared experiences of dealing with these patients and the 5 most common regrets these people shared with her. She heard their stories, she heard their longings, and most importantly, she also heard their regrets. When I read this book, it really touched me deeply because it really tells you truly what is the meaning of life, and it helps you to gain that perspective which normally one doesn't get. Because we're too busy in our daily lives that we don't have the time to think and reflect, and it's very hard for us to bring ourselves to the point to think what really matters the most to us. And reading this book really opened my eyes in so many ways. So I thought if it has really impacted me, it might have the same impact on you, and actually something you would like to hear as well. These are the 5 most common regrets people have faced on their deathbeds. And actually, I find the last one the most relatable. Hi everybody, this is Dr. Samreen. I'm a PhD graduate from the UK and currently I'm working in academia here. My work is about what we do and why we do it. Talking about this book, when I read this book, I was also going through some really difficult times in my life. And this book made me realize what matters the most. Although there's nothing new in this book. We all know these things, but it's just that we never get the time to think, pause and reflect and actually act upon those things. And first regret, which Bronnie shares in a book, is the life I lived wasn't my own. She talks about this man who lived his entire life following his father's dreams. He chose a career of his father's choice and became a lawyer. He married the right person, and on the surface level, his life was perfect. But only he knew that he's lived this life for others and he has not really achieved the truest happiness in life. And it's not only him. There are so many people who have followed the same approach and actually they don't even realize until it's too late. How many of us have done the same thing as well? We have chosen our careers based on somebody else's wish. We have been in relationships for the wrong reasons. We have befriended people just to look cool. And we have done things in life just to prove a point to others. How many times do you really think about the fact that, is this what I really want to do? If not, why even am I doing it? What purpose it is serving? And for whom? And after doing all that, imagine if you're 80 years old, where you have less time ahead than behind you, and you realize that you have not lived the life for yourself. That must not be a good feeling. So before it's too late, why don't we act upon it? So ask yourself, if you had no fear of judgment, if you had no fear of what people would say, what would you do? Just do it. Because ultimately, your happiness should matter. Secondly, start small. Take small steps every single day towards a life which really excites you. It could be anything. In my case, this whole world of content creation really excited me. But for the very longest time, I could not really pursue it until quite recently. And I realized that this really makes me happy and this excites me. So I started doing it. So I would say the same thing to you. Take small steps and find those things which really makes you happy and just go for them. And stop saying yes to those things which don't really align with who you are. Although you'll do them, but guess what? You would not gain any kind of happiness from it. The second regret was, I worked so hard. In here also tells the story of this lady who had worked really hard all her life. She skipped on vacations, she skipped on birthday parties of her loved ones. She skipped to take care of herself and she always had told herself that one day I will slow down, but right now I just need to hustle and work hard. But only in her final moments, she said, I wish I hadn't worked that much hard. And that really made me think, how many times we glorify the hustle culture, including myself, working on the weekends, working late nights, not taking care of ourselves, our well-being, ultimately to find out that it really impacts you as a person in all aspects, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I have seen people who have very proudly said that they were working all weekend long. And actually, I have been one of that person as well, because the minute you tell somebody that you had a good weekend, you kind of feel that they're looking down upon you, that how dare you had a good weekend. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. Only you can take care of yourself and you should. And for that reason, you should be able to know what success means to you. Is it really climbing that corporate ladder? Or is it about slowing down, taking care of yourself, working at your own pace, spending time with your loved ones, and so on and so forth. Because you know what? Success could be different for each one of us. And as far as you're successful in your own eyes, that's the ultimate goal. And to do that, always try and prioritize your work-life balance. Although I'm saying that, but I know how hard it is to prioritize your work-life balance, but one can try. And learn to say no to any kind of extra work which might be a hindrance towards your work-life balance. Regret number 3 was the words which were left unspoken. Here, the author talks about this patient whom she loved. And not only her, many other people also had the same regret that they were not really able to share their truest feelings with the people they really cared the most for. And actually, these are not the only people who have that regret. Most of us have that regret at some point or the other, where we have been too afraid to be vulnerable in front of somebody else and we have not really shared our feelings. It could be the feeling of deep love, affections, the dreams you have seen for yourself or for somebody else, the apology you always wanted to express to somebody, and so on and so forth. And imagine carrying the weight of that unspoken word throughout your lifetime. And you know why that happens? Because we are too afraid of what people think about us. We are too afraid of the consequences of our words. If anything we should do from now onwards is tell people how you feel. Share your truest feeling with the people you really care about. And don't really let fear stop your feelings of deep love, affection, even hurt. Because any emotion is extremely important. And as far as you are keeping it all inside, it's not going to help you in any way. And if you find it hard to articulate yourself really well, what I figured out that writing really helps. So the minute you start writing your emotions on a piece of paper, it really helps you to put it all out. And once you see it in front of you in a tangible manner, you feel more ready to express it verbally as well. Try it for yourself. Another regret which most people had was that they lost those people who mattered the most to them at some point or the other. Here, the author talks about this one patient who had that best friend since their childhood. They were inseparable. They would play together, eat together, go to school together, and so on and so forth. But as they grew older, life got in the way of it, and with time, they lost touch with each other. One of them passed away, was on his deathbed, regretting that he wished that he had not really lost contact with his friend. And actually, that's a story of modern day friendships. We make plans for days, weeks, and months to meet, and before we know, it's 6 months or a year time already that you have seen or spoken to this person. And in that, actually, I've realized is that you're never too busy to make time for each other, as far as you really value those people in your life. Because if you do, you're always ready to meet up with them, no matter if you're tired or busy. Because at the end of the day, it's not money or success which we long for, it's the true connection with people. So if anything you'd like to take from this point, call that one friend who you are meaning to text or connect for some time and you have not really been able to because you're too busy. And if you're anybody like me, schedule regular catch-ups in your calendar, because if something is in your calendar, you are more likely to get it done. And don't let your pride or business to keep you away from reconnecting with the people who you really value. And the final regret, which I really relate to, is that I postponed my happiness. It was a story of a patient who waited all her life to be happy. Why? Because she always waited for that one perfect moment to make her happy. It was always a case of, oh, I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I will be happy when I buy the house. I would be happy when I get a car. But now, when all the time has gone, and this person was laying in bed, weak, whispered that I wish I was happy in the moment and have not really waited for it. And that's the story of most of us these days. We are always waiting for that next big thing to make us happy. But when that big thing happens, we don't really feel as happy as we'd expected. And actually, I'm not any different. So when I did my PhD, on the day of my defense, my examiners asked me a range of questions. I defended my work really well, and they informed me that I have been successful in defending my PhD, and therefore they pronounced me a doctor. In that very moment, I was really surprised because in my head, I had made this such a big thing that, oh my God, the day I would get my PhD, I would be super happy. But guess what? I wasn't too happy. Of course, it was a great feeling. It was a feeling of relief that I've done with this massive task in my life. But I wasn't that much happy, which I was expecting. And as a result, I was kind of disappointed because it really didn't meet my expectations of being happy. And the very next day, it was normal, like nothing has happened. And that happens with most of the things in our lives. Things which we're really chasing all through our life, when we achieve those things, we are not as happy as we thought we would be. And what I've really learned in that process is that instead of chasing happiness to that one point, it's important to identify the small moments every single day to make you happy. Because life is too short and we don't know when that last moment is going to be for any of us. So, what's the point of waiting for that one big moment or that one big day? Happiness is about the journey and not the destination. So, if you're able to enjoy the process, if you're able to enjoy the journey which is leading you to that destination, the destination is the byproduct as you already have enjoyed the journey and also found happiness in it. And most people keep on postponing their happiness. They keep on reminiscing about the pain they have left in the past. And in doing all of that, they forget that they have lost this very moment which could have made them happy. And actually, what I've started doing every single day, the things which really makes me happy, I try and do them. I love plants and flowers, and I make sure that every single day I see them. I've always loved content creation, and since I've started doing it, I find a lot of happiness and excitement in creating content. Of course, I'm not saying it's not challenging, but with that challenge also, I've figured out how to enjoy the process. So find those things which brings you happiness and enjoy those moments, because you never know when is going to be that last moment. And so these 5 regrets are not just lessons, but it's such a good way to look at life while we still have the time. Because imagine if we get to know these things while we're at the later stage in our lives, and then we don't have the time to live through our life. I really hope that this video was helpful, and this would also help you to change your perspective on life as it has done to me. So choose courage over fear, people over productivity, and love over ego. So you have nothing to regret in your life. And if you relate to this message, don't forget to comment, I choose to live my life fully. And don't forget to share with your friends and family as well. They might also want to hear that today. Take care.